Now let's look at background color property of CSS. So background color property is basically used to set the background color of an element, which should be obvious. Which means that we can set, let's say, background color of a particular element to be of some color. So right now, let's say this color is red, and earlier we saw that okay, actually this thing spans, this element spans from where to where. So for that, earlier we saw that we could use something like border, let's say 1 pixel solid blue. Okay, sorry, so blue, and it should be pixel. And then we saw that okay, this is the extent of the this element, and let's say set some height to be let's say 80 pixel. Then we saw that this is the span. Now again, if I remove this border, then obviously I have no way of knowing that from where to where this element is there. However, another way is that we can set background color. So let's say I can set background color to be some color, and then you will see exactly that from where to where this particular element is there. So background and obviously on top of that you can use your own border also. So border, let's say 3 pixel solid, and let's say blue. So all these things will still work on top of each other, that is fine. So border as well as background, but mainly we are trying to see what is background. Again, background color, you can see later we will see actually, like in border, border is just a shortcut, and there are other things like border width, border style, border color. Right now, similarly, there is actually a border shortcut also. So rather than setting background color, and there are other types of background properties, but firstly we will go through all the properties, and in the end we will see that background shortcut also, not an issue. So right now we are interested in this background color, and obviously apart from normal color keywords, you can use any type of uh, thing which can be used as a valid color. For example, color code, hex codes, RGB codes with transparency or not, uh, and proper color variables, color codes like color keywords like transparent or something. Transparent is a valid color value. Not only it is a valid color value, in fact it is the default color. It is the default color of any div, which means that whatever, let's say there is some background here the whole page has some background, right? And if I don't set background color, then the background color is not white. Actually the background color is transparent, which means that if the whole page would have had some other background color, then this background color would be also same, because it's basically transparent. We'll come to that soon. Before that, there is an important concept to know, is that as you can see that if I apply background color to this thing, then you can see that okay, this thing is this background color is being applied to that element, right? However, let's for one moment apply border to our body element. Okay, so we see that our whole body element is this thing. So you understand, like I can say that this thing is blue, and let's say this thing is brown. Then the brown one is my body, and this, and why this is like overlapping, because my whole body is my this content. So let's say I have some other content here and here, then we will see that yeah, like the whole body contains all the three things: the first hello world, and then this div, and then this hello world, right? So the whole thing is my body. The the important point to note here is that if you set background color here, see in this div I'm setting background color, then you see that only this thing is set, obviously, because this is the border, and this signifies that this part is only the div. However, if let's say you try to set the body background, then rather than this whole body being set, actually the whole page is being set. So this is just an exception. Okay, so just you have to remember for body, and in fact if you do the same thing directly on HTML, then also it will work. You see, so if I was not applying anything on HTML, nothing was there. So as you can see that this is what I was trying to tell you, that this background color, if you apply on body, and now let's try to apply some background color, let's say like pink. Okay, and now I want to, and let's apply it on body only, because that works on body also. So now this whole thing, now you see, this is what I was trying to say earlier, that these areas, in fact let's focus only on this div for now. This div I have not set this div, let's say class hello, right? I have not set any background color. If I would have set background color, let's say that aqua color, then obviously whatever I set, it will be that. But by default, actually it is transparent. By default it is transparent, and that's why if the page beneath has pink background, then I refresh, then that is also having pink background, because it is transparent, right? So even if I comment this, the same behavior is there, which is testament to the fact that which I was saying, that this thing is by default transparent. Okay. Now let's come back to something called background image. Now this thing sets one or more background images on an element. Okay, so its syntax is simply that background hyphen image, and you might have remembered that earlier we used this syntax for setting this gradient, linear gradient or something. In fact, linear gradient or those sort of gradients can be used at any place where image can be used. We saw it earlier. In fact, here we are going to say that we will be using directly image. So background image, we will be directly using image. We can mix it with linear gradients also, as we will see later. Right now, background image, we are setting an image. Now what is the syntax for that? Syntax is that there is a function, there is a CSS function called URL. In that URL, you can specify the path of the image, and then that will work. So so let's clean up a bit. So border, right now we saw border color, right? So that is fine. Background color we saw. Let's remove this unnecessary things for now, because this is not needed, and will not use body background color also for now. So that should be fine. So this is normal. Now I'm trying to use a background image. So firstly, see what is the div span is this much, right? I want to set some background color, so let's make the height to something like, let's say 200 pixel. Okay, and rather than setting a background color for now, we are going to set, let's say, background image. So background image, and this syntax URL, and then you can give a path dot slash, or let's say simply dot slash images, and let's say HTML5. This is the image which I already have. So in images folder HTML5, this image I already have in my project. You can use any image which you want, or you can download it from internet or anywhere. But the point I am trying to make is that you can use URL function and then have a path to that file, and when you refresh that, then you will see that it has come. In fact, let's have a border so that we can clearly see that where is my div. So let's have a border of let's say 5 pixel solid, or let's say have dashed. Actually we'll need it later, but anyways, and let's say blue. Yeah. First of all, do you see this thing that uh, for more clarity, let's make the height, let's say 180 pixel. See, you're understanding that this thing is on top of the background image. So the text is still there, everything earlier whatever was there. So if background image was not there, everything was there, that is still there. It's just that background image has come in the background, nothing else has changed, right? And now like what should be your background image such that this color is legible, that is like, that is your responsibility to have proper color of this and proper background image so that it is legible. I'm just trying to show you that how so for example here it might not be properly visible, so make it some other color or make it bold or something. But the point simple is that the background image, if you're setting, this thing is being applied here. Let's make it slightly higher, so let's make it 500 pixel. Okay, first thing you are let's say, so first thing you are seeing that these things are repeating, right? There was only one image, but this is repeating. Actually this is the default behavior, that in x axis and y axis, if there is additional space left, then automatically it will be repeated. We'll come back to those properties in a bit, but for now background image you are setting, then it sets, and if there is any space it repeats. Okay. Second thing is that when I was trying to set the image, you see actually this thing can be a string also. So inside strings also you can put, first of all it will work fine. Secondly, like it can be single quote string, double quote string, all like all will work fine. Secondly, rather than having relative path, I could have absolute path also. So let's say simply start with slash. This will also work. Okay, but still I am operating from this index.html and the relative path from the current folder, so I can use dot slash also. So anything will work fine, the absolute path or relative path, anything will work fine. And this this quote string is not needed because as I suggested earlier, like your path should not have any spaces or something like that, right? However, let's say let's try that. So let's say instead this thing is having some space. Let's say I rename it to some space. Again, I told you earlier that this you please try to avoid spaces in files, but let's try to do that, and let's try to see using VS Code IntelliSense what it suggests. So see, they are trying to have a slash in front. So now you see it is getting confusing, and in fact whether it will work cross platform on Windows or Linux, on all types it will work or not, that is also debatable. However, this slash is a standard way of skipping space, right? So let's see, this thing works, obviously this thing will not work, you understand? In fact, this is like, it is VS Code is saying that some syntax wrong is there, and see it is not working. So obviously this thing will not work. We saw that this thing is working, right? Let's try this thing. We put it in strings, quotes, to make it string. Okay, let's try this thing. So this is now working, you see. So this is just an example that you could, and again that slash syntax is like confusing, right? So for if you are having spaces or something, then you can use this sort of string symbol, a string sort of way to import these file names. However, simplest thing is what? Simplest thing is never have anything like that, and then you will never need something like this also. Anyways, strings still you can keep, but you can simply have something like this if you know that your path is pretty simple. Okay, works fine. Now let's see something more about background image. We can specify multiple background images separated by comma, something like this, which means that uh, which means that okay, so you see that I can have this also, or I can have, let's say I am using a different image at all, this, okay, and now I'm trying to have two images. So you see that I'm trying to have this also, and let's say I am trying to have another image also, let's say this. So see what is happening. Syntax, you see, actually you can use it in, you put it in same line, a different line, that is that CSS will take care of. So the syntax is simply that you can use, right, earlier we were using just one background image, now we are using multiple background images, and they are separated by comma. Now what is the rule? The rule is that whatever image comes like the first, that is on the top, and whatever comes next, that is on the just below that, and whatever is the last one, that is at the bottom of the stack. You imagine like that. So this thing, the first image will be on the top of the stack, which means that my HTML5 image will be on top of this CSS3 image. If you refresh it, then you see that okay, this HTML5 is there, and this slight blue color is coming, right? That is because maybe that CSS3 image is slightly bigger. On top of that, you can see that this thing is jumbled. So HTML and CSS both are written. So if you, let's say, put semicolon here and comment this, then only HTML5 thing is there. Then you see that this jumbling thing will go, and this thing, this blue shade will also go. You see, and that's what it says, that now there is only one image. But now if I put comma and I use two images, then basically they are overlapped. When I refresh, then you can see that they are overlapped on each other. And why is it that I can see the other image through this? Because both the images are transparent. Let me show you. So let's comment this for a bit. Let's comment this for a bit, and let's have a simple background image of a single image, this thing, and let me set some background color, let's say this aqua. Then you'll see that the background is visible through the image, which means that whatever is image part is fine. The rest of the part which is not image, that is not white, that is properly transparent, right? In PNG images you have the support for transparency, in JPG you don't have, and that's why you should generally use PNG images wherever possible. If it has, in fact all PNG images will not have transparent, but PNG images may have the support for transparency. You have to see that whether that image is having transparency or not. But the point is not that. The point is that in this particular image, the rest of the part of the image is transparent, and that's why you can see the background through it. And that's why when you are, and the same thing applies with means in particular this image, whatever CSS image I have, that is also transparent, so you can see the background through CSS also. And that's why when I am not using any, when I'm using both the images at one time, then also they are visible through each other, right? Because both the images are transparent. That is the first thing. Second thing, you observe that you can have background image as well as background color. In fact, not only you can have, this is a good practice to have. Why? Because it might be that because of some reasons, let's say your images are let's say not loaded. Let's say I just change the path so that it does not load. So you see that the images are not loaded because of invalid path, but the point is that your background image is still there. So even if you have a completely non-transparent, completely opaque background image you are having, you know that my background will never be visible because my this image is opaque, then also it is a good practice to keep a background color, and maybe you can keep this color somewhat similar to the whatever background color is of your images. That is fine, so that the look is good. But the main point is that you should always use background color so that it can become a fallback as a background if your background image is not loaded. So that is the point I was trying to make. Okay, this is fine, and these two are overlapping each other provided I give the proper paths. Works great. Okay, so we have seen that two images we can do. In fact, we can do three images also. We can mix and match also. We can have few images and few linear gradients, which means that we earlier saw that any type of linear gradient or any type of gradient in fact can be used as at a place at the place of image also. So let's say I put a comma here and here I put a linear gradient, and let's say whatever, let's say pink to green or whatever. So you see that this background thing, linear gradient thing, is now at the bottommost. First of all, why it is at the bottommost? Because you know that this thing is not a transparent thing. We have never specified any transparent color or anything. Anyways, we are trying to keep it at the bottom. So why to make it transparent? It is fine. And then on this linear gradient, on top of that CSS3 image is there, and on the topmost image is HTML5, and that is how it looks. Okay, so you can use 3, 4, 5, whatever number of images you want, that you can use. There is no limit on that. But the point is that they can be stacked on top of each other. That is the one thing you can see, that is the capability of CSS. Second thing you have to remember is that the first image specified is on the top of the stack. Image means it can be linear gradient also. Whatever is the first, that thing is on the top of the stack. Background color is drawn beneath the images, and it is a good practice to have them. Next, let's come to background repeat. So for that we don't need so many things. Just a single image will be fine. Okay, so let's say I have a background image. This thing is fine, and we can see that by default it is repeating. Okay, there is a property called background repeat, and we'll see that it sets how the background images are repeated, and by default the behavior is repeat, and that's why it was repeating. However, you can customize that behavior by giving something like no repeat, which means that don't repeat at all, or repeat in only x direction or repeat in only y direction, which we'll see here. So I can set background repeat no repeat, which means that earlier it was repeat, means if I simply set repeat, then this is the default, so nothing will change. This is the default, right? But if I set no repeat, then you see that nothing is repeated. However, as mentioned here, there is something called repeat x and repeat y also, which means that repeat only in x direction, and we can also have repeat only in y direction. So these are some simple values. There are some values also, like space, in which you can, if you are having multiple images, they can evenly distribute and round, it fits. But these can be achieved by other ways also, which I will show you later. So these are like not many developers use it commonly, but you can go through the documentation to have a better look at it, or you can try on your own in your browsers to see that how it behaves. You can pass two values. Okay, the first value represents the horizontal repetition, and second value represents the vertical repetition, which means that when I which means that let's say my requirement is something like this, that no repeat and repeat. Again, you know that, okay, if the horizontal direction it is saying no repeat and vertical direction it is saying repeat, then I could simply do like repeat y. Yeah, that you can do, but it's just that you can configure it as two values, just to highlight that. Otherwise, in most cases, like these things are not needed. But the point is that it can accept two values, and if you give two values, then the first one is the behavior of the horizontal one, second one is the behavior vertical one. That's it. Background position. Okay, so background position property of CSS sets the initial position of each background image. So right now I showed you that let's say you are writing no repeat, that is fine. You're writing no repeat, that is fine. But what is happening? Where is the image? The image is starting from, let's see, top left, right? What if I need like here? Actually, there is a property for that, background position, using which I can position the image. So I can write background position, and in that the value I can give let's say center. Then you will see that the image will be centered. Okay, and you can also use values like top. So you see that if it goes to top, it is still center. Okay, so by default it is center in horizontal direction. So let's say see about left. So see, it is left, and vertically it is still center. So the default behavior is that. Apart from that, you can give pixels also, that I need like let's say 100 pixel from left and 50 pixel from right, something like that. 50 pixel from top, 100 pixel from left, 50 pixel from top. So you can give two values, something like this also. So this is what I was mentioning, and by default it is 0 0, which we saw, right? If it is 0 0, which means that it is like extreme top left. That was the default behavior. Okay, you can give these values in percentages also, which will take the like horizontal and vertical percentages, whatever is needed. More important thing is that by default, if you don't write anything, then the first value is from left, the second value is from top. By default, if you don't write anything, which means that this thing and this thing, right, like from left and from top, both of these are same. If you refresh, you see the same. However, now if you provide like from where, then you can write in any order, it does not matter. You understood, right? Still the same. What is happening is that if you don't write this top left, these things, then whatever is the first value, if you simply write 100 pixel or 50 pixel, whatever is the first value, that value is from left and the second value is from top. But now you can see that the direction, the side is given, and then the width, then the length of the gap from that side, these two are given. So those things can be calculated from that end, and now it is like pretty much simple. Now it can be anything like top, left, right, bottom. So if you change it to bottom, then it was 50 pixel from top and now it is 50 pixel from bottom. Okay, so those things can be configured. But again, like you understand, like these things are not that much needed until unless you need that much configuration from right or bottom. If normal you want to position things, let's say in center or something, then simply 50% 50% will work, or center will work, right, in center. Or otherwise, if you know exactly that from top left what is the direction you want to move, then simply one sort of without any side, simply this thing will work. Okay, let's now come back to background clip. Okay, so this thing is important. Background clip says that when an when a background is there, that is clipped from where. So see, what do I mean by clip? So uh, let's say my background image is this, and this repeat thing is I'm commenting this, which means that it will still repeat. It will still repeat. So it's repeating. That is fine. However, you see that this thing is clipped. If you want to see clearly, and let's make this thing 10 pixel. you can see that this image is uh, not going outside the particular element. So this border is the elements border, right? This image is not going outside, and that is obvious, right? That is obvious because this is background image for what? Background image for this element, then why it will go outside? That is fine. If it will not go outside, but even if it is not outside, this image should be till where? See, right now it is like going below the border also. Obviously it should not go outside the border, because after border, like, the element is finished, only margin will be there, right? But what if I don't want this below border? See, it might be that I want it completely inside. Maybe this border is solid and I don't want image below it. I want all the image inside the. All those things can be configured using background clip. By default, it is border box, which means that it will go till the outer border. However, you can set it to something like content box or padding box, which means that if you set it to, let's say, right now background clip I have not set, and that's why it was border box, which means that the background clip, if I don't set and it is, let's say, a border box, then it will be the same thing, nothing is changing, right? However, I can set it to padding box, you see, then you'll see that it is here only. It is not below the border, right? Padding box, or I can set it to content box. And if I refresh, you see that no change has happened, which means that for padding box and for content box, for both the same behavior is coming. Why is that? That is because there is no padding right now for this element. See, this hello world is there, as you can see. There is no padding between this hello world and the border, you can see. However, you can set that padding. Let's set that padding. And that padding is let's say 10 pixel. If you do that, then you will see that this hello world there will be a gap between this border and hello world, and here also there will be a gap. You see here between hello world and border, now there is gap. Not in padding, is not like padding is like all sides. You see that every side you have got this much padding, which is gap between the content and the border. Okay, this looks fine, but what if I don't want this? I want this till the border. That is where padding box comes in. Right now we are setting content box. Content box means whatever is your content, actual content, just keep it till there only. But if I set it to padding box, then that box, whatever in which the background image is going to be applied, that will be till padding. So it will include padding also, and that's why it is going till here. And the first one which you saw, that either you don't give it, or if you give a proper border box, then it will go below border also. Okay, so now you are fairly clear in this understanding that what is background clip. Again, background clip property has no meaning. It will have no effect in HTML element, because this all thing of clipping and this thing is only happening where the background is only applied to the element. As we earlier saw that for HTML element, the background is in fact not applied to the element it is applied to the whole page. So these things, this property will not make sense there, and that's why it is ignored. And I believe that in a similar fashion it will be ignored for body also, because body will also set the background for the whole page. So for HTML body, don't do this. For other elements, normal elements, you can use background clip property fairly. Background size. Let's see what is background size. Background size sets the size of the element's background image, which means that till now we are saying that let's say it is not repeating, and everything is like this, right? But what if and we saw that we can make it center and all, right, using uh, using background position. We saw that we can make it center. That and all is fine, but what if I'm this position is same, but what if I'm also interested in its size? That, you know what, it looks like yeah, the by default image is this much big only, so that's why it is coming this much big, but I want to zoom it. Let's say I want to zoom it. So what to do? What to do? Firstly, let's remove this center thing, because wherever it is there, I need to zoom, let's say here only. That is what is the problem. For that, there is a property called background size, and you can put it, let's say there are many values. By default it is like auto, means automatically it takes care that how much height should be, and it is basically the default size of the image. That will be the default behavior in most of the browsers. However, you can zoom it. So let's say I zoom, or zoom out also. So let's say I say 20%, right? So 20%, then you see that okay, this thing is like becoming smaller, and if it would have been like repeating, then this would like repeat many times, okay, because my image has become smaller. However, you can make it big also, let's say 70% or whatever. You see, this is bigger, and you can make it like whatever you want. So let's say I make it 50%, so this is like standard, right? However, if you don't anyways, the other property like no repeat is that would repeat anyways if so basically this is just trying to zoom in the or zoom out the size of the image. After that, if the space is still remaining, then all the other things, like if repeat is there or repeat is not there, those things will still apply, right? But the main thing is that yeah, so basically I was saying that apart from these things, there are some other values like cover and contain also, which means that this zooming you can hit and try that what 40%, 50%, 60%, what looks good to you, that and all you can try. But what if that is not my idea? My idea is that this thing is 30% looks this much or that much. What if I want it to fit the box, right? So there are two things for it. One thing is contain. Contain means the whole image will be zoomed in or zoomed out, irrespective of the size of the image. It will be zoomed in or zoomed out in such a way that it fits properly, it fits completely inside the container, with the behavior that is its aspect ratio will not change. See, it is not stretched or something. So if the image is something like that, okay, its aspect ratio is such that it will fit here only and this gap will be remaining, then let it be. And whatever, if repeat property anything is there, then that and all will apply, that is fine. But the main point is not that. The main point is that whatever the image is there, the image is size is changed such that with the aspect ratio maintaining, it fits the container, and the whole image is visible inside the container. But there is another property called cover. So contain means it contains the whole image, but there is one cover, which means that the whole area will be covered by this image. And for that, even if the image has to be eclipsed, that is fine. You see this whole area, which means that it is not letting any area vacant in order to maintain the aspect ratio. It is not. So in this case, it is taking the whole background area, and if the aspect ratio is different, then definitely either left side or right side, some side it will be clipped, that is fine. But it covers the whole background area, and earlier it was containing the whole image inside the this element background, right? Okay, so that is all. Now So you see there are a lot of properties in background, so don't get overwhelmed. Actually, background is an important toolkit where you need to do like 4 5 6 things with it. So that's why so many things are there. At the end we'll see that we have a simple background property with which we can set whatever 2 3 things we want for a particular use case. We will be using that. But definitely see, if some at some place these things come, for example, whatever things we have discussed till now, definitely those things scenarios can come. And then if you know that how to do that, then in those situations you can apply these things which we are discussing right now. Background attachment. So this thing means that when we are trying to set the position of the background image with respect to the content. By that I mean that if content is there in an element, and let's say it is scrolling or something, will the image also scroll with it or not? You understand, that type of behavior can be there. So let's try that. So for simplicity, let's remove everything. Let's keep it center. Yeah, this should be fine. And okay, and let's see. Okay, and let's try to do something like I will not have any repetition, and I will try to have it let's say contain, right, so that it fits here, whatever. Okay, but here what we are trying to do is that, let's say in this thing we are having, let's say a text, right, and then text can be, let's say something like this, and let it be clearly visible. So for that we will change the color to black, whatever the default. So something is there. Now you see that, okay, uh, the whole content is still inside. Let's add one more paragraph. This is still here, still it is inside. Let's try to put more content. Now you see what is happening. Now you can see that the content is overflowing, the content is going outside the this thing, my div, my element, whatever is there, my block element, the content is overflowing. Now we will discuss this later, but we can control this by a behavior called overflow scroll, which means that if the content is more than the height whatever of the block element is there, then don't overflow it, rather make it scrollable. So if you see, then you see that now it becomes scrollable. Okay, that is fine, but do you see how the background image is behaving? The background image is at its place and the content is moving. What if you don't want that? That is where this thing comes in, background attachment, which means that the default behavior which right now you're seeing, that thing is called scroll, but there are two more values called fixed and local. And what does this mean? Let me explain it one by one. So let's try local first. So this is like scroll, the default behavior if you don't write anything. And if I set background attachment to local, then let's see, background attachment to local. I refresh and you see now what is happening. You see that now the image is moving with the content. Okay, so that is what here it is written, that local means the background is fixed related to the element's contents and can scroll with the contents. So the element is moving with the contents. Okay, and the default behavior was scroll, which was something like this, where the background is fixed relative to the element itself and does not scroll with the contents. But obviously it does not scroll with the contents, but this image is fixed relative to the element. Do you understand what it is? It is relative to the element, which means that if element would have been, let's say, 100 pixel below, then this image would also move 100 pixel below. Let me show you. Let's see. This height is not 500. Let's say this is 400, right? And which means that it will be something like this. That is fine. But let's say I move this. I give some gap above. So let's give some line breaks here. If I give some line breaks, then you see that if my element has moved below, this image has also moved with the element. That is what it means by default scroll behavior. Background is fixed relative to the element itself and does not scroll with the content. That is fine, but the image is fixed relative to the element. That is not the case in fixed. If you set it as fixed rather than scroll, which is the default behavior, if you comment it, then also it is scroll only. But if you set it to fixed, then the behavior is different. Then the behavior is that background is now fixed relative to the viewport. It is fixed relative to the viewport, not element. Okay. So right now it is fixed with element, but now you see the thing is that this thing, image, is fixed with respect to the viewport. Viewport means this thing. You see this thing. The browser size, the whatever is visible part of the browser. So you can see that image is completely bigger or smaller based on the viewport size, because now it is dependent completely on the viewport, right? So and still it is relative to the viewport, but you can see that in this area the image is not visible, because even if it is relative to viewport, but it is the background image. What it is? Background image of this div, right? Which means that it will still be visible in only the area in which this div is there, but actually you can see that it is starting from somewhere above, like it is attached to the viewport rather than this element. These are the three values which mostly you will use in background attachment. Now coming back to the background, simple background property, which is just a shortcut for all the things which 5, 6, 7 things what we have seen till now. And there are a couple more also. They are not frequently used, so I will not go into all those details. But all these things which we have discussed till now, we can set that using simply background shortcut. Okay, so see, background pink, which means that automatically browser knows that you are talking about background color, background, and then if you give an image and you give a, let's say, color, then it knows that okay, this means that set background color to this thing, this means that set background image to this thing. If you give some repeat text, then it knows that you're talking about background repeat property. You understand now? So you don't need to remember all those things, and this is helpful in that context, that whatever you need, you simply put it, it will automatically take care of this background property, and that's why it is more common to use directly. In fact, properties like background color and all, background color is also very common, because what if I don't want to but what if I only want to target background color, and it is a simpler property to use, and that's why background color is also apart from background color, most of the times you will not use background hyphen specific properties. Mostly people will use directly background, because it is easier to use these things rather than using specifically other things. Sometimes you use background image, then you use background image also separately if in order to stack the images all together. However, there is a way to stack images in this setting also. If let's say you want to give 3 images or 2 images, one on top of each other, then in this syntax also there is a way. But again, that is better clarified in simply using background image property. So for that, don't use background, but you can use here also. That I will show in a bit. Before that, let me clarify one thing, that everything is fine, but there are some rules, and one of the rules is that this slash syntax which you are seeing, right? So if see, most of the cases it will automatically see that yeah, what you are intending to do, but there is a pattern which is convention which is used in this background syntax, that if you are using background position and background size, then background, if you are using background size also then background size should be used just after background position with a slash. So that's it, nothing else. So um, yeah, so if you simply put center space 30%, then it will not work. So it is just a syntax, just you have to remember. Otherwise most of the cases you simply blindly write the values and it will automatically take it. Okay, that's fine. This is what I was talking about, that background property can also support multiple layers, right? And each of them separated by comma, like background image. It can be separated by comma, and then you can put all those layers. However, if you see here, then okay, background, see background color, apart from background color, you see that background image, background repeat is also regarding image, background position is also regarding image, background clip is also regarding the behavior of image, right? You understand? So background size is also regarding that also. So you can see, and background attachment is also regarding image. So you can see that apart from background color, most of the properties which we see till now, they are regarding the image background image, right? And that's why you can use all these with comma except background color, because if you repeat it, let's say you repeat this thing like this, that okay, I repeated, I'm using background property only, and I'm repeating this thing, let's say 2 times. So background image relative things you are repeating 2-3 times, that is fine, but obviously there will be only one background color, there cannot be more than one background color. Background images can be stacked, but background color, like there's no sense of stacking these things, there is only one. That's why the rule is that you can stack and put a comma whatever, but the background color value, if you are using this stacked syntax of background, then the background color value may only be included in only the last layer. So it is invalid syntax to use this background color in stacked comma based syntax in some other like first or second, whatever, it is not valid. Whatever, if only 2 you are using, then in the second one you can use, but here we are using 3. So in the third one, whatever is the last layer, in the last layer you please put a background color, not anywhere else. Okay, so we'll see finally border radius. So almost everything related to background thing is done. So let's remove all these things. It is no more needed, and padding is not needed. Height is okay. It is fine. Let's remove all this. Anyways, it is not needed. Okay, as we were, just we'll make the border somewhat smaller, or for right now let's make it simpler. Okay, and we don't need this new lines, it's fine, and let's make the color back to red. Okay, now we were seeing that border radius. See, if we are having a border, let's say, let's keep a solid border so that it is clearly visible. So this is the border, right? Now let's keep some padding also to make it more clearer. Let's say 10 pixel would be fine, and height, let's keep it 300 only. Now you see this border thing is going on. What if I don't want this pointed borders? If I want rounded borders, rounded corners in the borders, then I can put a property called border radius, and I can put the what radius I want, whatever the circular radius I want. Let's say I want 5 pixel. Then see, this is slightly rounded. You can make it more rounded by using, let's say, 15 pixel, and see, it is more rounded. You can not only use pixels, you can use rems or ems also, right? So let's say I use 1 em, 1 rem, and see, it is something like, you can use it like 3 rem, then it will be more rounded. You see, it's more rounded. So let's keep it 1.5 rem, that should be fine. So the point you are understanding is that it can be very easily done using border radius. Border radius rounds the corners of the element's outer border edge. Now, why this outer border edge? Because let's say you have some thickness, let's say 10 pixel thickness of the border. Now you see that this internal border is also rounded, outer border is also rounded, but the fact is that actually internal is never rounded as per the definition of border radius. Border radius just rounds the outer border, and then as you give the width, whatever width you give, as per that calculation happens, and inner border is drawn, and if it comes out to be rounded, that is fine. Sometimes it might not come out to be rounded. Let's say I keep this border width very thick, let's say 30 pixel, a border width I am setting 30 pixel. Then you see that this inner one has become squared. Why? Because it was never intended like that. See, this thing is you can think of it as a ribbon. So this is a ribbon, this is going, and from here to here it is 30, from here to here it is 30. So definitely from here to here it is more than 30. If it would have been less than 13, then here also it would have been rounded. But since this is overlapping, so automatically internal one becomes rectangular rather than rounded. My simple point of saying is that when you are setting border radius, then it is just setting outer one's radius, and then the inner ones can be automatically drawn based on whatever is the width of the now in the last case when I saw that it became rectangular, if there also you want to make it circular inside that also, then there are other ways to do it. So for example, you can have a div inside a div, and that div which is on top of the another div, that is having a rounded corner. So you can simulate those things, we can see that later. But the simple point is that as per the definition, border radius gives the rounded corners to the outer border edge. Okay. Now let's see that there can be multiple values. There can be multiple values to border radius. Again, we have seen other places also where these multiple values can be there. But you know what? Earlier we saw like top, right, bottom, left. But these radiuses are like at the corners. Like there is nothing called top radius. Like radius is like on the corners. So what does this mean? This basically means something like this: top left radius, top right radius, bottom right radius, and bottom left radius in that order. Which means that so you think it like this, that earlier we were saying that start with top and then go clockwise. Top, right, bottom, left. Start with top, go clockwise. Now just change the rule slightly, and because like side is not involved, corner is involved, then I will change the rule slightly, and here the rule is that start with top left and go towards right, which means that firstly top left, then top right, then bottom right, and then bottom left. That is what the order here it is written. Start with the top left, then top right, and then bottom right. And this properties which is written here, actually this is again for targeting specific sides of the border. So right now let me firstly use this syntax and then we will come to this syntax. So right now I'm saying that okay, let's say, so you understand, right? Three values, four values, then in this order it will be used. Again, if two values, then in a similar fashion, two values, then this top right, top left and bottom right, these two will be the first one, right? And the middle one will be these two, top right and bottom left. You can try it, right? So let's say border radius I am putting 1.5 rem and 0.5 rem, right? If you refresh it, you will see that this radius is lesser, 0.5 rem, and this is same, which is 1.5 rem. So again, the same rule, but just start with top left and clockwise, all the four corners. And in a similar fashion, we can use three values, where this will be first, this will be fourth, and the middle two means the second one and fourth one. These and these, they will be given by the middle one. The same rules, just the starting point is top left. One very important point to note here is that border radius does not mean that it is radius. I mean, it also applies when there is no border. It is not necessary that you need to have a border and then only border radius can be there. By that I mean that, let's say I am having a border. See, now right now I'm not having a border. So if I'm having a border, then I know that yeah, this thing is there, and then if I put border radius, then it will apply border radius on this border. That is fine. But if I don't have a border, I simply have, let's say background color. So background color is, let's say, aqua. Okay, if you have this, then also if you apply border radius, then actually the same behavior will be applied on the background color also. If you refresh, then you see that this thing has become rounded. In fact, this thing has also become rounded. Let's make it 1 to make it more legible. But you can see that all the rounding effect is happening. Let's make it pink. You see that all the rounding effect is happening on the background also. So the point is that even if the element has no border, the radius applies to the whole background. Doesn't matter even if that is there or not. Okay. Now we can whatever we saw right now, till that it is fine. But all these are circular radius. There is another concept of elliptical radius. Before that, let me do one thing. Just now, which we saw, the border radius part, where this thing was given, top left radius, top right radius. Let me try to show you that we can override that. So let's say the whole border radius on all sides is 1 rem, right? But let's say only one side, let's say top left radius, I am trying to overwrite. So border top left radius, and let's say that is 5 rem or something, or 4 rem. Now you see that everything else will be normal and this thing will be like more rounded. You can see this is more rounded, right? So let's make it 3 only. So you can see that if I don't put border radius at all, then you can use just this thing to see. Others are not rounded at all because there is no border radius. There is just one property, border top left radius, and that's why only it is applied to this. However, if you are doing something like this, then as usual, others all the 4 border radius were applied 1 rem, and then you specifically overwritten the top left one with 3 rem. So as usual, it will work. Why it is important? Because in the next part there is something called elliptical radius, and in the case of elliptical radius, rather than having a circular, we can have a elliptical border, where we can give two values. So right now we are just giving radius. Like you imagine that there is a circle and I'm trying to give the radius of that circle. But right now this thing is elliptical. If it is elliptical, then elliptical has what? Elliptical does not have a radius. Elliptical have axis, semi major axis and semi minor axis, which means that if there is an ellipse, right, then from the foci of the from the two foci of the ellipses, if we join that, then there is something called semi major axis and semi minor axis. So you can google that. Let's say ellipse semi major axis. So you can see something like this, that in circle both of these are same radius, right? But this semi major and semi minor, uh, this thing is available in ellipse, and we can configure that. Again, this thing is like very rarely you will use. I am just telling here for the sake of completeness, otherwise this is mostly not used. So the point is that when I was saying that you can use one value, actually you can use here two values also. So let's say I use uh, so let's say there is no radius anywhere else, and I use 3 rem here and 1 rem here. Then you see what will happen. So you see, firstly you see without anything, only 3 rem, one value is there, which means that it is circular radius, and rest all the three sides there is no rounding. Just here we are doing rounding. But if I do 3 rem and 1 rem, then the behavior is that, okay, now see, from one side 3 rem is there and from the other side 1 rem is there, and that's why the behavior is something like this. If you change it something like this, it is trying to create elliptical behavior. So you see, now this side it will be more, you see, now it is from this side it is like 3 rem, and from this side it is 1 rem. So you can understand that you can create this side of this type of tilted borders, like, or borders more tilted towards one side or other side. You can do that, but mostly it is not used, so I will not go much into this. Just the point that if you have two values in one thing, then how to specify that in the shortcut syntax, you understand? So when I'm writing border radius, I'm writing it for all the four sides, and this itself can have multiple values. We earlier saw that border radius can have multiple values, uh, whatever, four values, let's say, from top left to clockwise. We saw that, right? So if it can have four values by space, then how to express this thing? Elliptical behavior. So elliptical radii in that sense, they are given by a slash, which means that right now I can say that 5 em space 1 em, that is the behavior for all the four radiuses. You understand? Which means that if you have multiple values, then you can put all the values followed by all the values of the both sides of the elliptical radius, which means that a semi major and semi minor, which means that this thing will translate into something like this. If you're not understanding at this point, it's fine, because this is not used anyway. But just I'll say that this thing we discussed, right? We discussed that starting with top left, we go to all the four: top right, bottom left, and 5 em and 15 em. There are two values. Two values means what? Two values means the top left and bottom right. These will be 5, and 15 pixel will be the other two, like right one and left one, in that sense, the top right one and bottom left one, right? And three values in that sense. It's just that just put those values as it is, and here also like 1, 10, you understand, and then middle one will be like top right and bottom left. So in that sense, put the same values, and then imagine that instead of slash there is space, and then it becomes the semi major and semi minor for each of the corners of the border side for the radiuses. Okay. So anyways, this should be fine. This elliptical border is not used that much, but just I explained here for completeness sake.